The man, the myth, the legend, Fox Sports Radio's finest, one of the best gamblers in the industry. A lot of people like to cover gambling and talk about it. He's actually good. Bernie Fratto, Fox Sports Radio. How you doing, Bernie?
Jason, good to be with you. This has become kind of tradition. First week of the NFL the last 4 years, and I have to start by taking my medicine. This is the year divisional dogs went 1-2. There were only three. It's been money since 2014, 76%. Thank you, Raiders. You turned the ball over three times. If you lose the turnover battle, Jason, in the National Football League by a margin of three, your chances of winning that game are 8.6%. So went 1-2 there. And oh, by the way, under the hashtag "So you want to be a gambler," I also had Tennessee +4.
Oh,
And you saw what happened there. So
that was one of those 1 in a million type games. Just a brutal beat. I'm trying to think of the other divisional matchup. The Colts covered.
Colts covered,
Oh, the
and
Saints, Saints
Carolina,
Panthers.
they
Oh
rode
gosh,
Carolina like a stick horse. That was just a bad.
jeez, that was terrible for me. I went with 3-1-1 in the contest, with the loss being the
Well,
Panthers and the friggin' Broncos coming in the back door. Bo Nix, goodness gracious.
yes, that was rare. It was a really chalky week one.
It was. I think favorites went 12
13
and
and
3
three.
or something.
Well, they went 13-3
13 and 3.
straight up, and 10-7 against the number. So can't beat that.
But we're on to week 2, Bernie. We don't wallow. We don't thump our chest too much. Maybe if a 5-0 happened. Let's dig into tonight's game. Is Buffalo at Miami. Josh Allen has dominated the Dolphins throughout his career, but at the same time, Tua has struggled mightily against Buffalo. This one's a little weird. That heat won't be an issue because it's a night game. So you can't play the whole. The Bills will be in the sun all day for the 1 p.m. kickoff, whereas the Dolphins are in the shade. None of that applies here. I kind of like Miami. I don't know if I'm getting sucked into a trap here. I didn't think Miami was particularly great last week. They were kind of shot themselves in the foot a lot, moved the football well, but I lean to Miami here under a field goal. How about you?
Well, you certainly have to on a short week travel game. Miami's a good club. They had the big distraction last week. As Nolan Ryan once said, the sign of a great team is when you don't have your best stuff and you win anyway. So they got the W. Buffalo, I think, is going to be a lot better than people realize. However, I just stay away from me. I'm having trouble with this line. If I do anything, I might have it as part of a two-team teaser. As long as the line's 2.5, is that the line you saw, Jason?
I'm seeing 2.5. Yeah, depending on where you're shopping.
Yeah. So you get that up above the key numbers of 3, 4, 6, and 7, and on a divisional game, standalone game on a Thursday night, and I think you got yourself a winner. And there are a couple teams you could tease that with, but that'd be the most I would do there.
Yeah, I don't. You don't have to bet every game on the board, right? You find edges wherever you can. I just your logic is extremely sound. I think a teaser makes sense. Now, there's a lot of great teaser legs. This could be a good teaser week, right, Bernie?
As long as you fall within key rules, you want to tease up through 3, 4, 6, and 7, where the key numbers. Like if the line's 3, that doesn't qualify because you're already at 3. If the line's at 7, that doesn't qualify. You want to be -1.5, -2.5 as the dog tees that up, or 8.5 on down. You get the picture. Whether you do a 6-point teaser, 6.5, or 7-point teaser, please don't tease totals, people. Don't do that. Don't
I did that last weekend. It hit, but it's stupid.
We've all done it. It's enticing. I'm not a fan of teasers in general because you need 2 outcomes, and anything can happen in the National Football League, as we see. But I think the large issue is you allow the math to work for you when you do it this way. Never tease through 0. I know you can look at this and say, wow, let's give Buffalo, let's check that. Let's tease through 0, give Miami 3.5 at home. Okay, don't do that. Don't go because you're not allowing the math to work for you. So that'd be the only thing I do in that game is a teaser.
Let's go to Sunday, Bernie, where the Lions Tampa game is fascinating. I believe this was -3.5 on the lookout, or I might be getting that confused. And now it's 7. Now Tampa has a cluster injury in the secondary. Winfield, their best safety's out. We already saw Jaden Daniels have some success, though he didn't throw the ball down the field. The rookie quarterback dump offs. Like the Tampa defense is not great by any stretch, and they're beat up, and they're going to Detroit. But I don't know. I looked at that Lions secondary, and they got the kid who used to be in Tampa at corner and a rookie. And Baker, he's got some weapons there. This is an interesting handicap. I lean toward Lions at 6.5, but at 7, it's probably Tampa.
Yeah, not to break up the party, I've already grabbed Tampa +7. It's actually one
Oh.
of my best bets, if not my best, and I'll explain why. I'll give you 3 reasons. Let's not forget the Lions played a pretty tough overtime game on Sunday night. And whenever an NFL team is coming off an overtime game and they have technically less than 7 days rest, I know we're splitting hairs here because the game wasn't on Monday, but it was on Sunday. It was on Sunday night. Those teams coming off an overtime game only cover 41% of the time the following week.
Mm.
And you brought up a great point. I think you brought up on Colin's show about 3 DBs that went out for Tampa Bay Sunday. That's something you have to pay attention to. But Jason, I think that's baked into the cake. That 7 points in week 2 in a game like this, that's a lot of points. And I'll tell you why. Tampa Bay's offense looks superb. They got a new offensive coordinator named Liam Cohen, who actually spent some time with the Rams. His ability to create route trees with screen passes and deep routes and put his playmakers in position to make big plays was fabulous. Him and Baker Mayfield are really simpatico, and they move the ball at will. They put up 37 points. Tom Brady even admitted, he says, I blew it. I should have drafted Baker Mayfield as my fantasy league quarterback. I think you're in for a big year. So to your point about defenses, let's look to the offensive side of the ball. Tampa Bay is going to get their points. I believe that. And so that backdoor number stays open. I'm not going to say they're a live dog, but if that game ended up, 34-28, something along those nines, it wouldn't surprise me. On the flip side of the coin, this should be noted, very small sample size. The Lions had 74 defensive plays, or check that. The Rams had 74 offensive plays. After week 1, the Lions are 29th in the league in yards per play. So they gave up some plays as well. I think you got perfect conditions in a dome. Baker Mayfield and Liam Cohen, simpatico. He's got multiple weapons. Tampa Bay was a playoff team last year. Coincidentally, they lost to the Lions in the playoffs,
Yeah.
31-23. And so I think you're going to see a shootout going both ways. And whenever a team can put up 30 points, it's hard to give them 7.
So the line in that one was 6.5, the playoff game. And the
Yeah,
Lions were up
it was.
14 with 5 minutes left. The Bucks score went for 2 and failed. Otherwise, everybody on the Lions would have lost. So, like you're saying,
That's
backdoor now.
right. They would have covered it. The final was 31-23, if memory
Yeah.
serves. And
Yep.
so had that 2 point conversion gone, it would have been 31-25. I think this Tampa Bay team is sneaky good, Jason. I think they're going to be a lot better than people realize because their offense will be prolific. And you're a guy that does a lot of research. Research Liam Cohen. He's an offensive
Yeah.
genius. He was actually the offensive coordinator for the Rams the year after Kevin O'Connell left.
I think he was at Kentucky, maybe in college
He
football.
was. You nailed it.
Right.
Remember they had those prolific offenses with all those guys zinging the ball around? His route trees, his concepts, his personnel groupings, he's really clever at getting athletes and playmakers into space so they can make plays.
So that Detroit Tampa playoff game. So Tampa had 400 plus yards of offense. Interception led to a field goal, and they actually got the ball back at the end of the game, down 8, and then Baker threw a pick to end the game.
Right.
But it looked like there was a world they could have not only tied it up and forced overtime, but like they can hang. You're probably onto something. The cluster injuries really scare me. And by the way, Jamison Williams looks like a different guy, doesn't he?
Well, they've had high hopes for him. I mean, this guy he's just right below Xavier Worthy in terms of his ability to run. A little immature, had the ACL come out of Alabama, took a little longer to mend and heal, had I'll say it in air quotes, a gambling situation outside the Allen Park. But they're going to use this guy and get him in places. Even Amon-Ra St. Brown didn't have much of a game. So the Lions didn't have their best game either, right? But the NFL, you kind of look, every week is an independent trial. I don't think things carry over. I think you have to take each game as an independent trial. I think offensively is the reason I am leaning Tampa Bay, or I'm already fired on Tampa Bay. And when you consider what you said about their cluster injuries, you're not wrong. But I think that's baked into the cake. If we were looking at a 4.5-point line, I think you look across the board this year, I don't think you'll see Tampa Bay getting 7 all year, Jason. This would be the only time they get many points.
No, it's a good point. Now I'm looking at the regular season matchup, and I looked at it because I had Tampa Bay like an idiot in that one. I thought Detroit favored on the road was insanity, and Tampa Bay got destroyed. It was 20-6. Amon-Ra St. Brown had like 12 for $124. I don't know if you remember that one. It was outdoors. But yeah,
I do remember. Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. That's a tough one for me. I just don't like the 6.5, 7 line number because, like you said, coming in the back door down 13 and you're going to get screwed. So there's major concern there. Can we go to minor Jets for a moment? I'm curious, A,
Yeah.
your thoughts on the San Fran game, and then B, the quick turnaround travel to Tennessee, which actually looked pretty damn good defensively with Snead leading the way.
So I'm going to give the Jets a bit of a hall pass. One of the things I look for year to year, Jason, is what I call the continuity between the GM, coach, quarterback, and you have that in San Francisco in spades. This is darn near Carmen Policy, Joe Montana, Jerry Rice,
Mm.
right on down the line. Okay, so Brock Purdy in that system is so proficient now. He's on time. He's on target. My God, these guys have played together. They got athletes on both sides of the ball. The Jets were going into a complete hornet's nest. Rodgers hadn't played in 2 years. That offense looked like a drunk trying to cross an icy street. They couldn't do anything. Give San Francisco credit. That was a bear trap game the Jets were never going to win. The line was bad. I liked the Jets. I didn't bet it. I was too scared. Actually had the first half under, lost on the field goal. I had an okay week, but I could have had a big week, right? But the point of the matter is, I will give the Jets a hall pass, but I don't think you're going to see the Jets look for real until October. So
Well, hopefully it's not
back-to-back
too
road
late.
games. Well, not in this man's NFL. If they can go, look, they won 7 games last year with very moribund quarterback play.
More.
They can win if Aaron Rodgers starts 16 games, 15, 16, 17 games. I think they're going to win 9 or 10 games. Rob, that defense is too good, and the Niners were just too good. So what we saw was unfair in the way the Niners had their way with the Jets defense and the way the Jets offense really couldn't do anything against a group that has been together for years. And they're the defending Super Bowl runner-up team, right?
Yeah.
And you pointed out the travel. You can't poo-poo that either. I don't know
Yeah.
if they're going to beat Tennessee Sunday. It's not a game I'm going to get involved in at all. I got to see a lot more of
No.
the Jets.
So I was it's interesting. I talked to Mark Sanchez, who announced the Titans Bears game, and he said Snead was dominant, jamming at the line of scrimmage, super physical as we expect. So what's going to happen if Snead follows Garrett Wilson around and Garrett Wilson's jammed? The Jets looked very pedestrian, as I'm sure you would agree, Bernie, outside of Garrett Wilson. Sure, Alan Lazard caught a touchdown pass and he wants to look to him, but you can't ride Alan Lazard to victory. And then it becomes, okay, can Breece Hall run against this tough front four? I don't know. The Bears couldn't really do much. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, the defense but sure as hell better produce here because, Will Levis stinks. And now you're looking at, I think the angle is the under. I'm seeing 41 and a half. I don't see the Jets opening a can here unless, Levis has a couple pick sixes or something.
Well, for my money, the Jets you always have to look under because if you notice how they prosecute their offense, they're very deliberate. They don't snap the ball with 15 seconds to go on the time clock. They run it down to 2-3. They're going to be a run first team. I believe they'll go in there and try to play ball control, field position. You open my eyes to something. I got to take a look at that under. That's a smart play. You also made another great point, Rob. It's not exactly like Aaron Rodgers has an embarrassment of riches of people he can go to, and you got to be scared to death because Breece Hall is like their bell cow, and he
Yeah.
didn't look good. And if he gets hurt, they're in really big trouble. So I think it's more of a situation where it's going to take time for this group to gel. They'll eventually play complementary football. 9-10 win team. Can they get into the playoffs? Absolutely, they can get into the playoffs. Now, they still have to do it, but I think they can. Don't read too much into the early part of the season. And as long as you got the Will Levis factor, what in the world was he thinking on that pass last Sunday? I mean,
That's a great question.
did he owe Nunzio with the pinky ring some money and he had to do something stupid? Did he play Mickey the Dunce? I'm joking. I'm joking, Jason. You get my wacky humor.
That's funny. Yes, I get it. Let's move. It's Seattle. First of all, every game this weekend feels like it's clustered around 3 or 7, and I hate that. But Seattle -3.5 at New England. Bernie, at first blush, I'm like, oh, Seattle's a better team. But what if they're not able to run? The Bengals couldn't. Then do you trust Geno Smith on the road laying over a field goal? And again, I'm not in on the Patriots. I think they're awful, but I couldn't respect myself in the morning if I bet Geno Smith is more than a field goal favorite on the road, and then he got kicked in his teeth, and the Patriots start 2-0.
Well, I never like laying points on the road in the NFL as a general rule. I'll do it. I'll do it. I think that the Niners will probably win and cover, and Carolina's catching 6 against the Chargers. I don't know how you make a case for Carolina. But to your point, um, New England looked very buttoned up to me. They didn't turn the ball over. Not a lot of penalties. I mean, they played mistake-free football. There's a lot to be said for that. They can ugly up a game. And I think the message that Jared Mayo is delivering on, more games are lost, not won, is gotten through. I was not impressed with Seattle. I thought they kind of escaped against Denver,
Yeah.
26-20. It didn't look good to me. And you're right about Geno Smith. He doesn't look good to me. That's an oddball line. It's always based on math. Power ratings are always based on yards allowed, yards gained, first down. So all that type of stuff. But here's the deal. The thing to watch in that game, when Geno Smith, what's he going to do on third down? What's he going to do in the red zone? What's he going to do in the fourth quarter? It's
Turnover.
one thing to go in and win a game. You got to win by margin.
Yeah.
There's no way I lay the wood in that game. There's no way. That'll probably be one of the least bet games in the league this year, or league this week. But it's one of those ugly finder games that you look on the radar and say, man, why didn't I see that one coming, as opposed to the big, the marquee games, right?
Browns at Jacksonville. I've circled this one. I took a nibble of Browns plus 3.5. I know they looked awful. I don't think they're that bad. I think Stefanski is very good. And I do believe that, Deshaun Watson if he's hit rock bottom and he can, get through this week where he's being accused of more stuff from, I don't know, 3-4 years ago. I think there's a world where the Browns could win this outright or certainly cover 3.5. I don't think the Jags are good enough to be laying points home or away.
I like the Browns as a dog here. Nobody wants them. I'll take them. You dress them up as a favorite, not so much. You make them a dog, all of a sudden they show up. I'm extremely worried about Deshaun Watson. He's a shot fighter, Jason.
Yeah.
You know that. Something's really wrong there. But give me that Jim Schwartz defense.
Oh, yeah.
Coming off a loss that way where they just got embarrassed by Dallas. You wouldn't want to be in Cleveland's film room this week. I'm sure it got very ugly and there was a lot of foul language. I think they're going to go down there on a mission, business trip, get in, get out. Probably a field goal game. I like Cleveland in the points, although I didn't fire on it.
San Francisco, Minnesota. I hope I didn't miss the best number, but I took 6. I think it was 6.5. I think Minnesota's got to be the side here. They did beat them last year at home. And if you're San Fran, again, it's short week, traveling to Minnesota. Flores defense did a really good job last year on Purdy. I don't know. I don't love it, but I do believe Darnold is able to get the job done here for the cover.
Well, I like Sam Darnold. I liked him at USC. He's just been in extremely bad situations. A couple of things jump out me on that game. Minnesota looked very good against a New York Giants team. I don't know what in the world happened to them in the last 2 years. God, first of all, the defense looked like a sieve, and Minnesota just did whatever they want, whenever they wanted. But the larger issue, you lose Saquon Barkley, you still got NFL players. That offense couldn't have scored in a women's prison with a fistful of 50s. What happened? Now let's look at the other side of the ball, Jason. And I think this San Francisco team is ridiculously scary. You put them outdoor, you put them on the road carpet. It's a big number to lay. I wouldn't want to lay it, but I'd be too scared to take the 6. You might be laughing all the way to the bank Sunday. Not a game I want to get involved in, only because Minnesota is stepping up in class so far on both sides of the ball. You really don't know what you had last week. But I think what the 49ers did to that Jets defense is really going to stick in my mind all year. So probably a stay away for me, but I think it will be a referendum on both teams. Were the 49ers really this good? Yes, I think they are. But are the Vikings going to be a lot better than some think they're going to be? I thought they were going to be good this year. I think they're a 9-10 win team. I really mean that. The Bears are the ones I'm not sold on. I never bought the Bears side for 1 minute.
I should point out that the Vikings last year, when they beat the Niners, were without Justin Jefferson, and the Niners did not have Deebo Samuel or Trent Williams. So each team kind of fighting with one hand.
Especially.
Yeah, that's enormous. And I remember this game because I was on, take a guess, the Niners. It was like a primetime game, and there was like a fluky touchdown catch by Jordan Addison. And I don't know that I'll do that in the contest, but I think I'll be betting. Well, I did bet Minnesota getting 6. Indy, Green Bay, is that anything there for you?
No, because of the travel situation and you're starting a backup quarterback. What you talking about, Willis? I mean, he can't play. Really, I don't know what they're going to do in that game. Indy is better than they showed. Okay, they're the one divisional dog that really hung in there, showed a hell of a lot of fight against an incredibly good Houston Texans team. So a game, let's just keep it here. I'm going to stay away from that game. Backup quarterback situation, you know the drill. I'm just going to wave it about. Let it go.
I largely agree. Chargers, Panthers. We're supposed to take the Panthers here. That's the move, right?
Right.
Chargers have no business laying points on the road with this limited offense, which, by the way, couldn't do jack against the Raiders outside of a couple J.K.
You're
Dobbins runs.
right. You're right. You're right. You know that the gentleman from Ohio State, I just had a brain cramp.
Dobbins, yeah.
Thank you. Um, broke that long run, 60, 70 yards, whatever. So they had 175, 180 yards on the ground. But if you watch the game, the Raiders won the line of scrimmage. They just can't get out of their own lane. I got to tell you, though, it's bothersome. I actually like Bryce Young. I wouldn't give up on this kid yet. But
Really?
they're a long ways away. Something's really wrong there. They're going to have to do max protect sets, 2 receiver sets, 3-step drop. They've got to find ways to let him see completions in his mind because – and I have a lot of faith in Dave Canales. Dave Canales was presiding over Russell Wilson when he had his best years. Dave Canales saved Geno Smith. He's the one that was presiding over Geno Smith. And Dave Canales helped Baker Mayfield get the bag. He's a brilliant quarterback whisperer. They got to devise a new system. But you're right. The Chargers land 6 on the road, a run-first team. And you said something at the very beginning. You're spot on. When the ball's in the air, you want to be on the side of the book. Who are the books going to need here? Everybody saw what the Chargers did last week, 22-10. Everybody saw what happened to the Carolina Panthers, right? There's your natural, what you saw last. However, not a game I'm going to be involved in. I got to be really selective this week.
Yeah, Chargers are probably going to be the second most public side this week. I think the most will be the Ravens, right? 9.5, 10, depending on where you.
They're probably a lot of yes. Ravens. They're late 9.5 against the Raiders. Yeah.
One of my biggest losses ever was going betting on the Ravens at home against like Arizona like 6 years ago or something. It was just supposed to be such a layup. Everything lined up, and the Ravens they tend to no-show sometimes. I know they've had extra time, and Harbaugh's a great coach, and the Raiders looked awful. I don't know, man. I already regret laying just a little bit on minus 9.5. I was just number grabbing before it hit 10, but I don't even like the bet. I would not be shocked if this was a 1-score game in the fourth quarter and the Ravens let them cover.
Well, I would not be shocked if it's a 1-score game, and I would not be shocked if it's a 31-13 game. Can't bet the game. The Raiders, they think they have an identity, but all they do is talk. And this is a tough travel spot. 10 a.m. game, which I know doesn't play into factors anymore. I know they're practicing early in the morning this week to make up for that. And tell me, I mean, the Ravens have had check that. The Ravens have had 10 days to prepare. John Harbaugh in a spot like this, coming off a loss, they don't want to go 0-2. You're going to get a max effort out of the Baltimore Ravens. And frankly, offensively, the Raiders just aren't going to be able to keep up.
I would agree. Yeah. I didn't think the Ravens looked great though, Bernie, against the Chiefs. I did not. I mean, they were getting destroyed for most of it. And then, Lamar pulling some crap out of his rear end at the end. Can I interest you in backing Daniel Jones on the road in Washington? Divisional matchup. Jones stinks aggressively, but one of the teams he is able to do well against, not quite Josh Allen versus Miami, but Daniel Jones has dominated Washington. Quinn, though, the new coach, has a lot of familiarity coming from Dallas. I bet Daniel Jones here. Should I admit that out loud?
On the right side. What number did you get?
2.5.
You're on the right side. I think New York's winning the game outright. I really do.
Outright. Interesting.
Yeah,
Daboll up again. Hey, by the way, do you think Daboll's on the hot seat?
Not yet, but I will tell you right now, if you're never going to like the way you lose. We covered the Lions for 10 years, 98 to 08. I saw it all. Barry Sanders last year. Last year I did pre and post was the 0-16 Rod Marinelli team. You're never going to like the way you lose. But if the New York Giants continue to get dominated and embarrassed like that, yeah, they will definitely make a change. And guess who's waiting in the wings? The guy who was right by Bill Parcells' side as a defensive coordinator, won 2 Super Bowls in 87 and 91, Bill Belichick. He wants that job. He wants that job. I like Daniel Jones in this spot, though. The Giants are way better. And, we're going to get to a stat later here because I'm going to give Houston as my best bet. I'll just spill it right now.
Houston at home laying a touchdown is your best bet?
They're going to poleaxe. They are going to completely poleaxe the Bears.
Now, that is interesting. Huh.
Here's what I was going to say. Let's go back to Jaden Daniels, right? First round draft pick, making his second overall start. So we all know going back to 2000, Jason, there have been 27 NFL first round pick quarterbacks who started week one. They were 5-22 straight up
Mm-hmm.
and eight or about the same against the spread, but 5-22 straight up. But how were they week two? They were worse. They were
Mm.
worse. So Jaden Daniels takes the field against a team, and again, you get teams going in different directions. I think the Giants win that game outright.
Mm. So
They got him on
does the
film.
same apply to Caleb and Bo Nix?
It absolutely applies because he was a number. Well, yes, because Caleb was a first round draft choice, and he's one of the 27 who started week one. Now he happened to also be the number one overall draft choice, and that guy hasn't won week one since David Carr did it back in '04.
That's
You don't
right.
throw for 93 yards passing and win a game in the NFL. Plus, the Bears needed a special teams touchdown and a pick six at home against the Titans to win that game. And when I watch what C.J. Stroud and the way they move the ball up and down the field with raw efficiency and what D'Amico Ryans has done with that team, you add to that the fact that rookie quarterbacks, first round picks, quarterbacks who started week one, come back and start week two, they're even worse against the number. I think it's going to be a long day for the Bears. You
Mm.
don't like laying a touchdown, but I think there's real value there. I think the Bears are in big trouble.
How many of these 7 point teasers would you do a 7 point teaser with the Texans down to pick 'em? You could take the Cowboys down to wait, is the Cowboys off the board? Oh no, the Cowboys is 6. You could take the
They were
Cowboys. Well, you don't go through 7.
6.5
Um,
against New Orleans, right?
yeah, 6, 6.5, and then you could take the Ravens down. I mean, Baltimore, Dallas, and Houston. Who's screwing that up?
Yeah, it's one of those things we Todd Furman and I joke about who loses, and then sometimes you get stuck holding the bag.
Well, I had Bengals last week
I
blow
do
out my
not think
teaser.
Houston is going to lose to the Bears. No way. Now with a rookie quarterback starting their second game, and I think Baltimore's a great tease down. I don't. If you tease Houston from 7 down to pick them, it breaks the math rules. Not that you can't get away with it, but I don't recommend it.
Yeah, no,
And
you're
as
right.
far as Dallas, we haven't got to Dallas.
Yeah, well,
I
I
think
was
they're
gonna do. I just saw some news. Hold on, Bernie. Saints have sent their players home because of this hurricane bearing down on Louisiana, and again, I don't know how that factors into your handicap of the game, but you're disrupting the week schedule. These players, they get the okay, Monday we're doing this, on Tuesday we're doing this, Wednesday, and on down the line. And this hurricane, now you're like, oh geez, we got to batten down the hatches and go to the grocery store and all this, and it kind of throws your week off. And I like the Cowboys to begin with. I think I like them even more now. I hate to bring up a hurricane involved, but if their whole week is going to be thrown into flux here, I think that's a big edge for Dallas. No,
Look, you're dealing with human beings. Absolutely,
yeah,
Jason. We get families with kids and such. Let's pretend none of that ever happened. You say they've taken the game off the board temporarily?
no, no, no. I just didn't see it on the card here. Sorry.
Okay, so let's pretend none of this had happened and there was no hurricane. I already liked Dallas.
Yeah.
And you almost never get me to fire on Dallas. But I think what New Orleans did week one is a bit of a fugazi. They're not that good. And sure enough, Derek Carr's beating his chest, saying all the wrong things. I don't like this New Orleans team. I don't like Dennis Allen. They had a good day, right? Every now and then a squirrel finds his nuts. They found it. They're going to go into Dallas, and this is where Dallas lives, man. Reggie Jackson was Mr. October. George Steinbrenner called Dave Winfield Mr. May. Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott, they're Mr. September. It's September, man. They're going to put 30, 35 points up. And by the way, Dallas's defense really looked good to me. Oh my God, fast, aggressive, pursuit angles. They were going after you with bad intentions. So this is a mismatch, I believe, and I think Dallas wins by double digits.
All right, we could wrap up. I don't know anything on Rams. The Rams are so beat up. Bengals. Looks like no T. Higgins again. Pittsburgh laying 3 in Denver. I hate to do this, but I think I want to back Bo Nix here.
Well, Justin Fields will never get a penny of my money, so we'll just set that aside. You don't know what you got with. Well, I just think he's a college version of a read option quarterback. I loved him at Ohio State. His default mechanism is to run. He takes too long to get rid of the ball. He's 10 and 28. Okay, let's set that aside. Um, There was one other game you mentioned though that caught my eye. I'm sorry. You mentioned 3 games. Denver is a stay away for me. What were the other 2 you mentioned just before that? Because one I'm interested in.
It was Cincinnati and KC.
Yes. Put this in your pipe, my friend. I got a few moles there. I'm told Joe Burrow is a long way from 100%. Did you see his throws? He didn't have the zip. And did you see on the bench he kept going like this with his wrist?
I did.
Even
So
when
he
he
was
when he grabbed
asked.
that,
He was asked. Hold on. The quote: Is your wrist preventing you from making throws you want to make?" And he said, "Absolutely not." Now he's not going to say yes, right? But I think you're onto something. The videos show that like it's paining him, and didn't he get the surgery like 8 months ago?
yes, and it's in his head. And
Yeah.
I love Joe Burrow to death. There were multiple possessions, and it didn't register when I was first seeing it. He didn't be in the huddle. He'd break the huddle, start to go toward the line of scrimmage. He's trying to get that wrist loose, right?
Yeah.
And then on the bench, it was even more pronounced. Somebody handed him a
Yeah.
Gatorade bottle.
Saw
And
that.
I know it's against a lot of practice psychology without a license, but I looked at him and he was cringy just grabbing the Gatorade bottle. So he's either in pain or something. And that can very much affect his grip. If it affects his grip, it's going to affect his arm speed. So no Joe Burrow, no good, no bueno. That you got to watch that because he's the engine that makes that team run.
I don't love the Chiefs as a team. I'm kind of bored of them. I don't want them to win a third straight Super Bowl. But I don't think this is this is like a speed bump for them. It feels like a walkover. I can't believe the Bengals are taking professional money. It looks like this was opened at 6, and I see 4.5 in some spots. Now
Well, it's
5 is a
all
dead
based on
number, but
math. Here's the deal. You bring up 2 excellent points, but um, and maybe Joe Burrow will shoot him up with Toradol and he'll feel like $1 million. I don't know. Cincinnati though is the one team, as long as Burrow's under center, that has the DNA to not fear the Chiefs. You know, Jason, you're extremely observant. I mean, I watch you guys show all the time. You see things other people don't. That Baltimore game, there was something in their body language as the game that went on when they played Kansas City Thursday night a week ago. They were going to find a way to not win this game. And Casey Stengel used to say the reason teams lose to the Yankees is they get stuck staring at the pinstripes. And I think the Chiefs have that effect on people. I really do, but not on the Bengals. The Bengals have gone in there and beaten them. And the Bengals had the sideline call a couple years ago. They've beaten them actually multiple times. They're the Chiefs. They're the team that the Chiefs know they're not afraid of us. Miami, you put them in cold weather. Would you see that stat? And I love Tua. Put them under 70 degrees, not good. Buffalo can't do it. Forget, any of the other teams we talk about. Um, who else I'm omitting? But the Cincinnati Bengals are the one team I believe that if they're healthy and Burrow's healthy, will give Kansas City everything they can ever ask for. And I think
yeah.
that's the issue here. Joe Burrow just is not healthy.
Yeah, I don't think he's healthy. No T. Higgins. The running game looked very pedestrian. Meanwhile, Mixon goes for what buck 60. I don't know. The Bengals. I had high hopes for them, and that schedule is tough. All right,
Well,
Bernie.
hopefully, I do know one thing that I found out that Jamar Chase apparently had food poisoning before the game. I think you'll see a bigger active rollout of Jamar Chase this week as long as Burrow can get him the ball.
I mean, he is going against McKinney. Who is it? McKinney? Yeah, Trent McDuffie. I'm sorry, right? Trent McDuffie. Is that the?
Sounds right.
Yeah, McDuffie. He's excellent, and he struggled. By the way, Chase did against Christian Gonzalez, a young kid out of Oregon, I believe, who got hurt last year for the Patriots. But he locked up. Chase had like 2 catches on 7 targets in the second half, something crazy like that. Like
Yes.
I don't. Maybe his mind's just not into it because he doesn't have his contract. But all right, Bernie
That,
Fratto,
and
that's
I did hear he had food poisoning. So for what that's worth.
yeah, that's like 30 minutes of real juicy breakdown. Almost every game on the card. Love it, Bernie. Thanks a lot. Fox Sports Radio. You're killing it, man. Congrats on all your success.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Jason. Enjoy the rest of your week.